It sounds like that you were asked to deliver a unicorn of programming languages a little bit that just does it all. Like usually in my experience, and I haven't been developing software for a little while now, but I did at one point in my career, or a few points rather. And like you usually don't start out with this thing has to be able to do everything that a thing like this might, could do. So that was usually not the starting point. And I think there were people sort of advocating to do the opposite, just to really figure out what you need to focus on, and then as it grows, you can always refactor and then rethink things, but
Right.
usually try not to boil the ocean, so to
Right.
say, from the beginning. So did it make that planning phase excruciatingly long? How was that experience?
I mean, this is exactly what I was intimidated by, right? Was we were sort of promising to do it all and had good reason to want to do it all ultimately. But as you say, you can't do everything on day one. And the analogy I always have in my mind is like, growing crystals or growing rock candy, if you've ever done that in a solution. Like initially the crystal is very small and there aren't very many facets on it. So there aren't that many places you can contribute and make it better. But as time goes on, it gets bigger and there are more places you can have people contribute, right? So in this analogy, initially it's like, well, we don't have a compiler, we don't have a runtime, we need to build those things, but they're not going to be able to do very much yet. But over the course of the project, it's now, of course, much bigger. There are many more facets where people can contribute. I guess we haven't really talked about time frame, right? So this was basically 23 years ago that this conversation with the chief scientist occurred, like more or less to this week, plus or minus a week. And it took us, when I look back at the timeline preparing for this interview, it took us a long time to get things going, as you're saying. And we didn't try to do everything from day one, but we knew that ultimately that's what we wanted to do. And so our focus was typically on the things that made us most unique. Because, if the first thing we did was create like an amazing traditional language, everyone would say like, well, we've got a bunch of good languages, like why do we need this? And so we really focused on the parallelism, the distributed data structures, the things that would make it really different, and that we thought would make it really productive. But some of the downsides of that, of course, are we put off features that were key. I remember one that we intentionally put off for a very long time was like error handling, exceptions. And it's like, well, programs have errors. They need to deal with those errors. And we're like, we agree, we're not disagreeing, but we have to pick our battles. And today, that's not our battle. I'm happy to say today we do have an exception handling story, but it did take us a long time to get there. And one of the other things that took a very long time was getting good performance. So we had a point where we had the parallel features, we had the distributed features, but the performance was terrible. In fact, for years it was terrible. And this is really a non-starter in HPC. I mean, the whole point of using these systems is to get good performance and scalability. And we believed we had created a language that would allow us to achieve that. But again, you can't do everything on day one. And so on day one or day 10, day 100, year 5, I don't know, we didn't have performance. In fact, for a very, very long time. And so yeah, it's required a lot of patience from our fans and from our community to get to this point. And I think the good thing is when people try it out today, everything is not perfect. I don't mean to imply it is, but we're in great shape compared to where we have been for the vast majority of the project's history. And that's been really exciting to see come about.
And to clarify, 23 years ago this week means November in 2002.
That's right.